Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is For a Pause in a Book. I make book and lifestyle related content, so if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you hit that subscription box down below. Today I am going to be recommending books based on other books. Okay, so this is not a new concept whatsoever. This is very popular among BookTube, and it's if you like this, read that. So I'm just going to be picking a couple of books that I think have either similar vibes, similar themes, similar something, whether it be the trope, whether it be the way that a plot is handled. Who knows? I honestly don't have this scripted, and I'm just going to kind of go off the cuff with this. I have a couple of, of ideas. But, yeah, let's just start. Okay, the first one I'm going to do is a young adult contemporary, and that is going to be if you like Far From the Tree by Robin Benway. I think that you will like The How and the Why by Cynthia Hand. Both of these deal a lot with the foster system and foster children or adoption, adoptive families, things like that. Far From the Tree follows three siblings that find out as teenagers that they are actually all siblings, that were all given up for adoption. And so then it is their journey in their search to find their history, to find out more about their family, about their birth parents, and then also kind of get to know each other. The How and the Why is a really interesting story because it is about this girl who has a very happy family. She has been adopted, but she loves her adopted family. But then she kind of stumbles upon some information, and it kind of leads her down this rabbit trail, and she starts finding these letters from her birth mother, and she kind of goes on the search for that. And it's really interesting to see how the two lives mirror each other. You see the perspective of both the mother and the daughter, and it's really cool to just kind of see how they interconnect. It's definitely a little bit non-traditional in the fact that you are getting both perspectives, and you're kind of seeing things unfold and be revealed as you go along. As the reader, you're quite blind. But yeah, I really liked both of these, and I think you will too. Now we're going to try a fantasy, and I think that if you liked Clockwork Angel or any of the Infernal Devices, then you will like Library of the Unwritten by A.J. Hackworth. Both of these are battles of angels and demons and ghosts and all these extra paranormal things in the world. This is a very popular series on BookTube. It's like historical, paranormal, and pretty much everyone knows about this. This book is about a librarian who oversees this little section in hell where all stories go to die, and basically if an author dies or decides to put away a story and not finish it, that story goes into the Library of the Unwritten. And at the beginning of this book, the main character of one of the stories escapes, and there is a huge manhunt, character hunt, Prince Charming hunt. So yeah, this has just got a band of crazy misfit characters, all on an attempt to save the world and not die. For some reason, when I was reading this book, it immediately made me think of this, and that's kind of where this correlation, and honestly where this entire video idea came about. So this is where we're going with this. The next one is a little bit of a stretch because I am going to switch age groups on you, but I think that if you liked I'll Be the One by Lila Lee, but you want something a little bit more adult, then I would recommend Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade. Both of these are contemporary romances. I'll Be the One is about a plus-size main character who is in a Korean dance competition, like dance and singing for a K-pop group. Kind of like an American Idol / So You Think You Can Dance kind of thing, but for a K-pop group. And there's a lot of body positivity in there, but there's also a lot of that Hollywood stardom type thing. The same goes in this. This is about a plus-size main character who writes fan fiction, and she cosplays one of the characters in what is essentially this universe's Game of Thrones. And lo and behold, one of the main characters also writes fan fiction under a pen name, and then somehow they end up getting finagled to go on a date together via Twitter. and a romance ensues. And this one was one of my favorite books of 2020. Really, really enjoyed it. But I think it has a lot of the same conversations about body positivity. Obviously more like teenager appropriate versus like in a romance. But they're going to give you the same vibes. Another contemporary romance recommendation, and that is, I think, that if you liked One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, you will like Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. Both of these are queer sapphic romances. This one is about Jane and August. Jane is stuck on a subway, and August meets her on the subway, and it finds out that she's kind of displaced in time. And it is absolutely adorable. There's a lot of conversation about bisexuality in there and just finding yourself and discovering who you are. And the romance is just like hella cute. Love this book. Honey Girl, while it does not have that same science fiction element to it, this is about a girl who gets her PhD in astronomy and goes down to Vegas and gets married to a stranger. And instead of like, you know, getting it annulled when she gets sober, she decides to go forward with it, and she goes and like gets to know this other girl, and the other girl is just absolutely adorable. She has this spooky paranormal podcast, so I guess there's a little bit of like paranormal, I don't know, like otherworldly aspect in both of them. But one of the things that really connects these two for me is the friend group. Both of these have a really, really great found family. Both of the girls in this have their own kind of found family. August has her band of misfits that she lives with. This book is essentially New Girl, but if it were gay. And so, yeah, I feel like they have very similar kind of ties and tropes to them, and I think you'll like both of them. You're gonna have to excuse the planes, because apparently the Air Force has decided that it's time to do drills. I have talked about this comparison on my channel before, so this one is not a surprise, but I think that if you liked In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland, you will like Beyond the Ruby Veil by Mara Fitzgerald. Both of these books have a very, like, dark blood magic running through them as the magic system, and they are both hella queer. This one's probably a little bit more because there's a lot of representation. There's non-binary, there's lesbian, there's poly-rep, but this one, there definitely is some queer representation, as well as a little bit of hate to love romance budding at the very end. So really, really enjoyed both of these. And while these two stories are very different, the idea behind them, like the plot, the reason that characters are doing the things that they're doing are very different. This one just has very similar themes and just very similar moods and aesthetic to me. So while they're very different stories, I think that if you liked the aesthetic of this one, you will really like this one as well, or vice versa. Here is another comparison or recommendation that is more based on aesthetic and writing style and overall vibes, which I understand is not a literary term, and I don't care. I'm still using it. But it's more that and less the actual plot or the characters or the storyline in general. Those are very different. But I think that if you liked The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, I think that you will like The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. And let me tell you, these two are very, very different stories. This is about a socialite actor, kind of the Marilyn Monroe, Elizabeth Taylor type character of the world. And this is about two sisters that grew up in tiny little town in the South and then go on to live two very different lives. I understand this. These are two very different stories. But the writing style has a very similar vibe to it. It's very literary fiction-esque. It's definitely more of a character-driven story and less of a plot-driven story. You really relate to these characters and you really get to know these characters and you're really in their heads. These are two books where all you care about is the characters and what is happening to the characters, and less about the beats of the plot and the story structure itself. So for those reasons, I think that you would like this book, you would like this book. Or vice versa again. And lastly, I am adding this in because I finished this book today and I absolutely loved it. But I think that if you like The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, or Concrete Rose, or really On the Come Up, either, any of her books, But specifically this one, you will like The Cost of Knowing by Brittany Morris. I just finished this book today, and I think that this might be the best book that I've read this year. I almost cried, which is saying a lot for me. And this book is just such a reality. It's a harsh reality, especially as a white person who doesn't have to deal with the just day-to-day lives. But this talks a lot about white privilege and microaggressions and just the racism that people have, the subconscious racism that you don't even realize you have, but calling people out for that. And this book is really, really sad, but it is about a boy who can see the future and sees a vision of his brother dying, and then tries to change the future, or tries to change the relationship that he has with his brother in the time that he has left, because he doesn't know when it will happen. Obviously, if you're not new to BookTube, you know what this is, but this is about Star, who sees her friend get shot by a police officer, and then the aftermath and the riots and the just chaos that ensues after that, the jury or the trial that she has to go through and be a witness for. And this book is just magnificent, should be required reading in all high schools, but I feel like these two kind of go hand in hand. Alright guys, that is all I have for you today. If you're feeling chatty, let me know 2 books that you recommend or compare to each other that you would recommend to people. And if you're not feeling chatty, you can put the peace sign or the 2, whatever you want to call this, emoji. And that is all I have for you today. If you're new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you can do so down below the video. And all of the other links to my social media will be in the description below if you would like to be my friend on any other platform. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.